When you look at the history of the third eye, you realize that it all began by the Hindus and the Buddhists. They basically believe that the third eye is an invisible eye that's supposed to provide perception beyond ordinary sight, and the person can reach enlightenment through meditation. But what we're talking about right now, it's all religious. It's not actually scientifically accurate that a third eye works like this by meditating. But the Buddhists and the Hindus do not say that you actually physically see from the third eye. You just get more enlightened through meditation. To get a better understanding of what the third eye is, we're gonna look at what a neuroscientist by the name of Andrew Huberman has to say about it. Andrew Huberman suggests that whoever is talking about the third eye, they're most likely talking about the pineal gland located in your brain. Before we enter the brain and start talking about the pineal gland, let's get to know the brain a little bit better. As you could see, when you look at the brain, it's separated into two different pieces, the left and the right side. Each of these pieces are made from different lobes, and each lobe you look at, it has a corresponding one on the other side. So if you have a frontal cortex, you have another one that's mirroring it. But there's one thing in between these two pieces that does not have a corresponding thing that matches it. And of course, what we're talking about is the pineal gland. Huberman says that the main job of the pineal gland is to produce melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that basically makes you feel sleepy. When it gets darker and you reach nighttime, this is why you start to feel tired, because the pineal gland is producing melatonin, making you feel sleepy. An interesting melatonin does is that it makes you sleepy and go to sleep, but it does not keep you asleep. We have a 16th century philosopher and mathematician and scientist by the name of René Descartes. You could say Descartes is one of the first scientists that actually wrote about the pineal gland in the brain. But what he said was more philosophy than actually scientific. Descartes mentioned that the third eye, or the pineal gland, is the principal seat of the soul. The reason Descartes wrote such a thing is that when he actually examined a human brain that had been taken apart, he realized that the only part of the brain that's only one piece and it's not separated into two is the pineal gland. Of course, a lot of people like what Descartes had to say and a lot of people disagree with him, but we're not in a place to argue with anybody. We're just stating facts. Or we're just mentioning what Andrew Huberman has said. Huberman says the third eye in animals like snakes, reptiles, and birds are much more noticeable than humans. Like for example, you have a lot of snakes that literally have a hole on their head that goes all the way down into their brain, and it finally reaches where? Of course, the pineal gland of the animal. And the reason that this hole exists on this animal's skull is because that's literally its third eye. When it's daylight, it's always having sunlight shine through it, so the pineal gland knows that it's daylight, so it does not fall asleep. But as soon as it gets dark, no sunlight reaches the pineal gland, and it tells the snake to finally go to sleep. But the bird story is completely different. Birds' skulls are so thin that sunlight literally shines through their skull, reaching their brain. But the way it functions is very similar to the snake. If there's sunlight out, the bird thinks it's daylight and it does not fall asleep. The brain of these animals is not even compared to the human brain. The human brain is probably the most complicated and insane thing we have came across. The human brain is different in many ways. One of the main things is that the pineal gland is buried so deep inside the brain that there is no way light can reach it. If there's light reaching your pineal gland, there's something weird going on. So this shows us that our pineal gland is not actually an eye, because if an eye doesn't have any light reaching it, then it's not an eye. But if you search like third eye in Google, all the pictures you see is a little third eyeball on a person's forehead, like a cyclops looking thing. But the people that actually believe in third eye, they don't literally say that there is a third eye on your forehead, but they believe when you meditate, some way or another with your thoughts, you open up the third eye. And that's why Andrew Huberman doesn't believe it, since he's looking at it in a scientific way. Huberman continues and says, everywhere on your body you can feel it. You touch your face, your arm, your chin, your body, you can literally feel it. But you have to know that your brain cannot feel anything. You might say, I hit my head really hard and it hurts. It's not the actual brain that hurts, it's everything around it that hurts. That's why when neurosurgeons actually do brain surgery, they never numb the brain itself because it doesn't need it. They numb everything around it. But when a person feels emotional, gets sad, angry, or happy, it is the brain that's sending all the signals to make you feel this way. But the brain itself doesn't feel anything. Like for example, when a person gets terrified or scared, you feel it in your chest. You start heavy breathing, your heart starts to beat faster, and your hand starts to shake. And that's all happening because of what the brain is doing. Dr. Huberman continues and says when a person meditates, they basically focus all their thoughts and energy onto one subject. And by doing that, you can usually make your mind stable. Usually when a person meditates, they think of one thing and they think about something they actually like and calms them down. And all because of that, you get somewhat of a good feeling. But before the meditation, your mind was all over the place and you were stressed out. Andrew Huberman says that meditation is not a bad thing, but since it makes people think too much, maybe overthink a little bit, that could backfire and make you even feel worse and maybe even stressed out and depressed. So in a way, he's saying that the third eye is a way of being positive, having positive thoughts, and get rid of all negative things in your life. A person can't really say that they know the brain 100%, because the human brain is probably the most complicated thing we know of. Even though we looked at this subject in a scientific manner, but there's no way we can say that we're 100% right or wrong, because there's always a chance new studies show different results. What do you guys think?